you. That's much better. I hope everyone's enjoyed the morning's concurrent sessions. And now that you've had a little bit of lunch and you're feeling mellow, we have a very special guest. The Honorable Philip Berry, Vice Chair of the CUNY Board of Trustees, is joining us to talk about mastering something we all deal with daily: change. But first, I want to introduce you to CUNY's Executive Vice Chancellor and Chief Operating Officer, Alan Dobrin. Alan's tenure in public service spans nearly 20 years. He served the city as Commissioner of the Department of Information Technology and Telecommunications, known as DOIT, and as Chief Information Officer. Alan's a graduate of CUNY, holding a degree from Queens College, and he returned to us in 2001 to lead the university's institutional business operations, budgeting, and planning. So please welcome my dear friend and boss, Executive Vice Chancellor Alan Dobrin.
Well, that's the highlight of my day. Okay, before I begin, and I'm really not here to make a speech today. I'm just here to introduce Phil. But that being said, I do have an audience, so what the hell. So, on all of the business functions, look, at the end of the day, you can forget it if you work at 42nd Street, because those of you who work with me at 42nd Street, you may have noticed there's not a lot of students there. So you can get confused about priorities. But on a rational day, I know that the priority in this university is good professors in front of good students. And so the most important thing we do in this university is make sure we get good people. And if I believe that, which I do, then I've also got to believe that the most important people on the administrative side in this university are the people who make sure we get good people, which are the people in this room. So I just want to take a second, to thank all of you, for the hard work you do every day and for how important it is. And I'm not unaware, and maybe I am going to make a speech. No more than 20 minutes. Okay. If you look at the literature on organizations, what you see is the split is big organizations and small, not public and private. The only thing different about public organizations and private organizations is we have this bottom line called fairness. And that fairness pops up in only two places. No one else has got to deal with it. It pops up in procurement, which is why everybody is always mad at the procurement officer. And it pops up with HR, because HR at the end of the day is procurement. I mean, that's really what you're doing. You're procuring people, not goods. So everyone's always a little mad at you because you have to keep the rules. You're the ones who have to protect the value of fairness, not just efficiency. So while I'm up here, I just want to thank all of you for that also. I know your jobs are really hard, and I know you're the ones who do protect fairness in the university. Okay, now we're going to go to why I'm really here. So Phil Berry was appointed by Governor Pataki in June 2006 to the University of New York's Board of Trustees. In 2007, he was made the vice chairperson of the Board of Trustees. Currently, Phil is the president of Philip Berry Associates, which provides executive coaching, leadership training, diversity consulting, and organizational development services. Until recently, he was vice president of global workplace initiatives and corporate officer for Colgate-Palmolive, a Fortune 500 global consumer products company. He led the company's efforts to attract, develop, and retain a diverse workforce, and is responsible for implementing and evaluating diversity and inclusion strategies on a global basis. As Ginger said, Phil received his BA in sociology from Queens College and an associate's degree in marketing from the Borough of Manhattan Community College. He's what Jay Hersenson calls a twofer. I would assume he didn't do well in those programs, because then he had to go off and do an MBA at Xavier University and an MSW at Columbia. So, Phil, I want to apologize for our strict admission standards that you couldn't be a fourfer here at CUNY. Phil is also on the CUNY Business Leadership Council, and he's acting chair of the CUNY Construction Fund. And in 2004, he received the Governor's Award for Community Distinction. And in 2003, he was selected by Crain's New York Business as one of New York's 100 most influential business executives. But more importantly, Phil is a spectacular citizen of CUNY. There is no trustee in the university who gives more of his time and energy than Phil. He serves on probably more searches, does more community meetings, speaks at more graduations than any other trustee. And, you know, Phil, it's one thing if you're, you know, working for a company and, you know, instead of being in work, you're doing your CUNY stuff and you're being paid. Phil doesn't get paid when he does the CUNY stuff, so it's really appreciated. He is a person who, you know, is wise. He has courage. I see at board meetings when the opinion's going one way, Phil jumps right in if it's not going in a good direction and takes it another way. And, you know, I've seen a lot of that lately, which really, you know, all of us who work there appreciate. But for me, most importantly, Phil is my friend. Phil and Karen, I generally think it's a bad policy, you know, to be friends with the trustees, but I made an exception in Phil's case. And, you know, all of us, you know, are very lucky, you know, Phil is going to speak, and you're going to see, you know, the wisdom that he has and the courage that he has. But I'm a little disappointed in one way. There's actually one person who actually is a lot wiser than Phil, and I would urge you to try to get them next year, and then Phil will have been your second wisest speaker, and that's Phil's wife, Karen, who, you know, is actually even a little wiser than Phil. So before I go, though, I just want to also, you know, thank my friend Ginger Waters. Ginger, you know, we just keep piling on more and more work, and I hope, you know, you're all complaining about it because I assume she delegates some of it. But, you know, she is truly a CUNY gem. But with all of that said, before somebody drags me from the microphone, I'll introduce my friend Phil Berry.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. This is really great. I'm really honored to be here. And I'm not only honored, I'm happy to be here, quite frankly. I mean, this is a wonderful event. And when, and also with my friend, and when we say those words, I don't like to just say an individual is my friend in a way that doesn't mean anything. We have, you know, we have socialized, we've talked a lot, we have counseled each other, and I really value that. And it's something that I treasure, and it's one of the reasons why I am really so glad to be associated with CUNY, because CUNY is an institution that just wants more, and it just demands more, and it inspires more from you. And so when you get that, then you just want to give more. One of the things that I'm very happy about is this particular gathering here. And as I understand it, Ginger said that this is the first time since 2005 that this gathering has come in place. And also, it's the first under her leadership, which is very important. So I really want to congratulate her for that work and for pulling this particular session together. Because when you talk about the future of HR, you're talking about you. You're talking about the contributions that each and every one of you makes every day. And I just want to give each of you my own applause for the work that you do day in and day out, because I understand the struggles that you go through, I understand the labors that you go through, and I understand the sacrifices that each and every one of you make every day. I understand it intimately because I know your work. I understand what your contributions are, and that's why I'm really just so proud of this event. When we talk about the future of HR, HR is not a job. HR is not a person. HR has to do with every single individual who is concerned and cares about the human capital within our organization, within each of our college institutions. And so if you're in finance, if you're doing finance in the right way, you are concerned about HR. If you are dealing with labor relations, you are concerned about HR. If you are the admin person who happens to be at your desk, you are concerned about HR because you are concerned about the interpersonal dynamics that take place and how you can satisfy human needs in order to make our institutions a better place. And so the future of HR shouldn't be, I know that there are college presidents who are here. They are concerned about HR also. They have to be. Each and every one of you has to be concerned with the human capital that is within your organizations. And so that's why I just wanted to share with you a few points like the 5 keys that I think that will really help each and every one of you make a better impact in the work that you're doing every day. I'm a lover of a number of things, and maybe that's why I continue to be associated with CUNY, and that's why I like to go to graduation exercises, because I can listen to all of the nice thoughts and read books, and it's just a wonderful thing. So there's one person, Soren Kierkegaard, and who is a philosopher, and one of the things that he said is that if you really want to understand yourself better, you have to face the facts of being who you are, for that is what changes who you are. And when we're talking about change and being a change master, what you're concerned about is how you can not only change yourself and how you can help grow yourself, not only grow your institutions, but also grow your community, grow all of those who are associated with you. And so change masters need to understand a number of things if they're going to do that. And the first thing they need to understand, the first key, is understanding, where am I now? What is my current state? What is my current position? And position not from the standpoint of your job, but in terms of the psychological makeup, your DNA that you happen to have at the particular time that you are trying to look at what you want to do differently. But you want to start with that, and what you want to do is to begin to say that, well, ask yourself the question, am I making an impact? Am I making a difference? Am I contributing in a way that helps to reduce the gap between my intention and the effect that I have on others? And if I'm not doing that, then what I need to do is I need to think about how am I going to be a lot more effective in making that happen. You see, many of us are associated with our jobs in many ways. We love our jobs. But the fact is that change is always in the air. And so you can't continue to stay in your current state without realizing that there are changes and there's a metamorphosis that is taking place. And do you know what happens? Matter of fact, I like going to Disney World. If you ever go to Disney World, and then there's this one platform that you get on, and when you're going to fill up this auditorium. And so what happens is that it looks like the platform is moving one way, the stage and the seats are moving another way, and you sometimes, am I staying still? Am I moving, going forward? Sometimes you get a little dizzy. Well, that's how it is on your job every day. The fact is that the change can make you dizzy. It can make you wonder who you are, where am I, what am I doing here? But nonetheless, we need to have these keys so that we understand how we can master that, how we can get control of it, and by getting control of it, then we are going to make a much stronger impact. And so we have to know that change is our friend. Change is a constant, and it's always happening. And if you don't change, what will happen is that you won't stand still, you'll move backwards. And so the first thing is understanding where I am, and then the second key becomes, well, where do I want to be? Think about this. Ask each and every one of you, Alan was talking about my wife, and one of the things, anybody who has a significant other will always realize that you get a great degree of truth from an individual who knows you very well if you ask them. And so I always like, yeah, and so I like to tell people, think of anybody who you happen to know, either here, who you've worked with, and then find out, write down on a sheet of paper 2 words that describe yourself, and then ask them the same thing. What do they think about you? What are the words that they would use to describe you? What's the word on the street regarding who you are? What are people really saying? Are people saying, gosh, HR won't let me do certain things? They are standing in the way. They are blockers. They are barriers. Is that what they're saying? Or are they saying something else about you? What is it that you want them to say is the key thing. How do you want to be viewed? How can you begin to make a change so that you are, in essence, rebranding? So that way, everybody talks about a brand, and everybody has a brand. Whether you know it or not, I can walk through this audience, you can too, and because my psychosocial skills are pretty adept, I can really pretty much get a read on you and who you are, and I can tell a lot of things about you without you even saying anything. But, you know, the way you look at me, the way you don't look at me, all of those type of things. So now people aren't going to look at me anymore. They're going to avoid me altogether. But, and I've had that. But the important thing is that what you want to do is that you want to have your image and what you represent and your behaviors accepted in a way where people really feel that they can come to you to help solve their problems. Ultimately, you're problem solvers. And if you think about this, think about all of the colleges and departments that you work in. When we talk about where you are as an individual, you also have to begin to understand, where is this particular college? Where is this department? What needs to change? Where do we want it to be? And when I talk about where we want it to be, I'm not talking about 5 years down the line. I'm talking about very quickly trying to decide that and to try to make that happen. One of the things that is happening right now is that we have just selected a new chancellor. Took us quite a while to find the right person, but we feel that we have that person now. And what's going to happen is that there will be changes. We cannot rest upon the laurels that we have been able to establish over the last 15 years. However great they are, and they have been, but what we want to do is to determine, where do we go next? But it's not just at the top of the organization. It's through every single department. When you talk about the future of HR, change doesn't always just come from the top. It shouldn't come from the top. It shouldn't be you watching and waiting. It should be you determining and feeding the information up through the organization to say, this is where we think we need to be. This is what we think we need to be addressing. These are the type of issues that are important to us. Let that come forth from the bottom, so to say. And you're not really the bottom. The bottom really are the individuals who are on the top. And that is the way it should be. The students, in fact, are the ones who really determine we are here for them. That's why I like to go to graduation exercises, because it helps to put me in a frame of mind to understand that the reason why I'm sitting here is to make this happen. For individuals to walk across that stage, for individuals to embrace their family and embrace their friends, for individuals to celebrate lifelong achievements, however much time they've spent with that. That's what it's about. That's what you're about. You want to create an environment where everyone feels that they can be nourished, where they can achieve their dreams, where their vision can be in front of them and achievable within their grasp. And what we look to you for is to help create those organizations and to create that environment of change so that we can make that happen. And so that brings me to the third key. The third key is, well, why do I want to be wherever I am? You see, change should be contagious. But we have to have a reason for change, or else anyone who is in any work here knows that if there's not a firm rationale, either you have pain or pleasure. A lot of times we just deal with pain or pleasure. So the pain of the present situation or the pleasure and the hope of what might come. That is what motivates us. And so what we want to do is to begin to understand that maybe there's a pain point that we have because we aren't able to get the impact that we want. The pleasure will come from being able to realize that particular dream, to help individuals to have the type of effectiveness that they want. We want to change paradigms. We want to change the paradigm that is in our organizations. It's not going to come just from individuals who happen to be at 42nd Street, and that includes the trustees and everybody else. We have to change the paradigm, and when I say we, I mean each and every one of us have a role in order to make that happen. And so if there's a paradigm that exists where there's not trust, where there's not communication, where people aren't feeling that they can relate, where there's no teamwork, where principles in terms of how individuals are dealing with conflict aren't clear and transparent, those are the type of paradigm shifts that we want to make. So that way we begin to change the expectations that people have regarding what they're doing. Will Rogers once said that, I might be on the right track, but I'll get run over if I just stay in place. What you want to do is you want to make sure that you're not going to be run over by old ways of thinking, old type of behaviors that are in place, and it's really your role in order to make that happen. What we want from each and every one of you is to help individuals to get to that point. The role of HR is growing. I remembered when Alan was talking a little bit about my background, and I remember when I first was associated with HR, and it was, matter of fact, when it was called personnel. You remember when it was called personnel? Well, sometimes individuals, we change the name of the job, but people still operate with the old behaviors. And so we have individuals who are just changing in name only. What we have to do is to make sure that there is synergy between what we call ourselves and how we are acting and how we're behaving. So as we move towards issues regarding human capital achievement, people risk, helping to make sure that we are making the dynamic between people and the organization, people and technology, a strong one. What we want to do is to ensure that we are managing that socio-technical interface in a way that is going to create a much more vibrant future. And we want to change the mix. For example, unfortunately, there still are a number of individuals who are involved. If you look at your work, probably maybe 50 to 80% of it is transactional. What we want to do is to put systems in place and procedures and ways of operating so that individuals can step back and be a lot more strategic in how they are approaching things. Step back and say, what's the type of organizational environment that we want to create? How can we ensure that our environment is a lot more diverse and inclusive? How can we ensure that there's a lot more dynamism in terms of the way people are working with each other? How can we ensure that the relationships that are in place are not toxic, but that we put in place healing mechanisms so that way everybody can get along better? You and I know that there are individuals who you are working with who you have known for a long period of time, who have been there for a long period of time. Well, what we want to do is to help them. HR's role is to be an assist to individuals, to help individuals look at how they can grow. And by grow, I also mean change, to improve. Because if you just stay the way you are, then you're going to die. Where does that come from? Well, there's a course that I took at BMCC in quantum physics. In quantum physics, there's a term called entropy. All organisms move towards disorganization or death unless you put in what's called negative entropy, new thoughts, new ideas, new ways of operating, inspiration, feedback, something that gives individuals more so that way they can do more with what they have. And so as HR people, what we want you to do is to create negative entropy in your organizations. You are students and teachers of physics in this particular matter. And so if people say you're just dealing with people issues, no, you're looking at more than that. So what we want you to do is to build the type of resiliency and transformation that makes all of that happen. And when we talk about how to get there, we get there by ensuring that HR is a critical partner in moving your organizations and business ahead. That HR is not just relegated to transactional tasks, but you become a core part of what is happening. That is why I so fervently get involved in a number of issues with the Board of Trustees. Because at the Board of Trustees, what I'm able to do is to help individuals look at some of the things that they're involved in a slightly different way. Just a few more things I want to say. So what I would say to you is focus on not a million things, focus on one strategic goal each year. Focus on one thing that you want to change in your organizations. Do it at the beginning of the year, get input from others, involve people on a team basis, up, down, and across the organization, so that way you are not operating in a silo. That's how you get there. You don't have to feel that you have to be the only one that will come up with these solutions. Getting there involves innovation. And when we innovate, what happens is that we're looking at new contributions that we can bring, new ways of doing work, new ways of relating, new ways of approaching a task. Because it's through innovation that we all get inspired and energized, so that way we can contribute a lot more. And the last key that I have is this, and that is, how do I not remain there? Because remaining there would imply that you want to just move to a certain point and then you want to stay there. How do I sustain being there? How do I continuously improve? How can I develop my organization as a learning institution? So that way, what learning institutions do is that they're always getting input and information, and then they're acting upon it. You become action systems. That's what we want to do. You are the ones who can convene those sessions. It doesn't have to be anybody but you, because you have a broader view of all of the human dynamics that are taking place and that are not taking place within an organization. It's a leadership role. That's what transformational leadership involves. That's how you begin to transform from just being relied upon to help process this particular paper, pay my benefits. All of those things have to be done, and you certainly have to do them well, but you have to do more than that. If you aren't doing the things that help to create your institutions and make them extremely dynamic, then you are failing. So think about that one goal that you can have, so that way you can move forward. And above all, think about how you can continue to create trust in your organization. Trust is achieved when each and every one of us realizes that they can rely on others, and they can depend on others in order to deliver. And so you want to have a trusting environment. People trust you most of the time, and then sometimes they wonder. Well, if there are those who wonder, then what you want to do is to get them out of wondering so that they move into a stronger mode of trusting you. And that has to do with communication, that has to do with developing new relationships, and it has to do with networking in ways that maybe you haven't networked before. And so I encourage each and every one of you to do two things. First, as I close, think about those 5 keys. And what I'd like you to do is, just for a moment, if you could think and close your eyes, and with the hand that you do not use the most, just hold and observe those 5 keys in your hand, and think about yourself as the butterfly who is going to come into existence in a new world. And as you open your hand, open your eyes, and then begin to say that I am now renewed, and I am going to, as of this moment, to go and do some things differently than the way I have done them before. I'm going to take a risk. I'm going to trust. I'm going to relate with people. I'm going to communicate with people in a slightly different world, in a slightly different way, because I know that that will make the difference. I make the difference. I am the change master. Change masters of CUNY, thank you for allowing me this time to speak to you briefly.
So I know I'm transformed. And I'm sure all of you are as well. Thank you, Phil. That was a wonderful, inspiring talk. And I think it sets us all on the path to doing things a little differently when we go back to our desks tomorrow. So now comes the time that I have been looking for quite some time. I am going to be presenting the first ever Art Brown Award for Leadership in HR Technology. And I would ask Executive Vice Chancellor Dobrin and Trustee Phil Berry, just sit there until I get through my speech first. and then you can come up when it's time to present the award, okay? So for those of you who did not know Art Brown, and this is, again, I've done this. For those of you who have been at his memorial service, you've heard some of this before, and I do tend to get emotional, so forgive me. But let me take a moment or two to tell you about him. Art was a unique individual and an innovative career HR professional whom we lost in 2013. I first got to know Art when he joined CUNY in 2002 as University Director of Personnel. He left in 2005, but fortunately for CUNY and for me, he returned in 2006 to head up the CUNY First HCM functional team. Now, I had been involved in CUNY First from the beginning, and Art and I shared many perspectives on how the new system can work. He had such a vision. One vision he had, which I know you will appreciate, was that that recruiter role that everybody's so familiar with. Well, when Art was designing it, he envisioned recruiters going around to departments with iPads and providing that one-stop shop for the HR posting of a job and discussion with the managers or the hiring officer about what they were actually looking for. That transformative role that Trustee Berry was just talking about really engaging with people in the department as they were trying to hire. The vision is still in play. Okay, we're not there yet. But, you know, with some divine intervention, we will get there. And I keep that vision kind of in my mind. Art was a true gentleman who had the gift of making everyone he worked with feel special. Some of you in this room know what I'm talking about. When I think of Art, I think of expanding circles. You know how when you have a friend and a coworker who you see every day, and then that person leaves to take another job, and you always say, you know, we'll stay in touch, you know, give me your information, and it just never happens, and you just drift away because, you know, your circles are different. My experience with Art was exactly the opposite. Even after he left CUNY for FIT in 2008, our circles of mutual contacts and colleagues kept multiplying and expanding. I remember sitting at a conference once in Philadelphia, and I'm sitting next to somebody who said he worked in New Jersey in personnel. I said, did you know Art Brown? He said, Art Brown, how is he? This wonderful. We called him on the phone. You know, Art, guess who I have? Jerry here with me. So, and I had many experiences like that of people that knew both Art and myself, and again, the circles just kept expanding. In fact, that concept of expanding circles is what informed the design of the logo on today's bag and the logo for the conference. It is a small token of our respect and admiration for someone whose work was so exceptional and innovative, whose life touched so many of us and expanded our circles of connection with each other. So today, I'm pleased that there were 4 outstanding nominations for the Art Brown Award. And I'd like to introduce each of the nominated individuals and teams and tell you how they use technology to improve the delivery of HR services, streamline a business process, create efficiencies, and maintain and manage HR data. So please stand as I say your names. From the Graduate Center, Ella Kasiliuk, Mamie Mark, Tatiana Asan, and Rashi Asthana. Please stand. The Grad Center's HR team was nominated by Robert Campbell, Vice President of Information Technology, for implementing an online time and leave reporting system that leverages the employee self-service functionality in the Grad Center's banner system. The project, which was configured to the specific requirements of CUNY's various employee classification groups, replaced manual paper and pencil timekeeping with an online process, replaced manual arithmetic with system calculations, and replaced paper records with electronic archives. From Hostos Community College, Shirley Shivak has been nominated by Vice President Esther Rodriguez-Chardivine for her leadership in implementing the efficiencies of the HCM model of CUNY First. Shirley here? No? Shirley couldn't join us today. Oh, I see that now. But she was recognized for eliminating old business processes and arduous manual workflows at Hostos, resulting in improved HR customer service. In addition, as some of you know, Shirley's been a leader in training and assisting other campuses, conducting presentations and creating an online CUNY First HR manual for her campus. From the CUNY Law School, Elizabeth Johnson, Jeffrey Edwards, Ryan Sparrow, Carmen Vasson, Sandra Berriton, Rosa Navarra, Diane Kunkel, and Stacy Rockwell. Anybody here? I know Liz couldn't be with us today, but hopefully some members of her team are, and they are. They were on CUNY Law School's electronic leave accrual management system called ELAMS on the team, and it was nominated by Dean Meredith Gibbs. The ELAMS team worked to develop and implement a system for eliminating the manual processing of time and leave records. ELAMS has provided CUNY Law with an electronic process to calculate an employee's time and leave, and a communication tool to send a monthly accrual report by email directly to the employee and his or her supervisor. And lastly, from Queens College, Ronaldo Medina, Brian Murphy, Oswald Frazier, Angel Arcelay, and Daniel Raffalano. These individuals comprise the Queens College EPAF team. They have been nominated by Vice President William Keller for their development and implementation of an electronic personnel action form. The team responded to workflow inefficiencies on their campus by designing a secure, user-friendly EPAF that is complementary to CUNY First, incorporating information from the campus solutions, position budgeting, and HCM modules. 100% of the campus's academic departments now generate their own EPAFs, and all authorized approvers, the HR and budget offices, and even the Office of the President utilize the system. Congratulations to all our nominees. I want to thank you for your creativity, innovation, and collaboration, and for thinking out of the box to problem solve and improve HR customer service on your campus.